Hello, my name is Kemal Gekić and I'm one of the judges for the Nashville International Chopin competition. Today I'll be answering some questions about Chopin, competitions and performing. What is the single most important thing when performing Chopin? This is a very difficult question. I think it's actually a wrong question. In my view, there is no such thing as the single most important thing, because the music of Chopin and his psychology is far too complex to be reduced to such definitions. You know, whatever we choose and we say is the single most important thing is a great line or beautiful singing or this or that. It's a complex of many great qualities, and I would say the priority of those I would give to sensitivity, imagination, feeling of style. I mean, those will be probably most important things. Understanding of singing, but it's also a blend that how these qualities are actually distributed. And most important thing, there should be certain elegance and spontaneity and sincerity in this. So as you see, it's a lot. Chopin asked for a lot, and that's why people are trying to define his music, and everyone has his own Chopin already for 200 years. So that would be my answer to this. The second question is, what Chopin works should one avoid when playing in a competition? Chopin wrote a lot, and although he wrote a lot, it's still a limited repertory, and everything is pretty well known, if not outright famous. And so I don't think there should be some works that should be avoided, provided that the person feels he or she can do it well, it can identify with the piece. Ideally speaking, it would be nice to hear pieces that are not hackneyed, they are not performed too much, too often. But in the end, the only thing that really matters is the quality. So the choice of program is a question of affinity, what one feels that can do really well, that what one feels identified with, and what one feels that can do justice to those works. Third question, what are complete deal breakers when it comes to Chopin interpretation? I would say, since the material is so sensitive, and it really is, many offenses could be committed against it, and in fact they are committed on a daily basis. But, you know, some are more passable than the others. I think top of the list would be lack of sensitivity, lack of imagination, or lack of personal engagement, identification with a piece. I think Chopin offers a lot of room for personal view. In the end, it cannot be otherwise. But a lack of involvement and lack of engagement, I think that's something that becomes a deal breaker. The next question, how to choose a program for 45-minute Chopin recital? Now, as we mentioned before, since he wrote a sizable body of piano works, is all possible imaginable variety in there. Ideally, for a listener, it would be nice to hear a variety of forms. So rather than playing, let's say, 20 etudes, it would be nicer to hear some of preludes, some of mazurkas. Impromptus are not that frequently performed. Rondos are not that much performed. There are nocturnes that are seldom heard, for example, G minor, opus 15, and many others. So I think, again, it depends on a personality of performer, what one likes to play and what one identifies with, but it would be good to offer variety of aspects of the composer, because we have classical Chopin, we have Salon Chopin, we have Polish Chopin, we have French Chopin, we have so many different personalities in the music, and we have small fragile forms, and we have major forms, the big forms like Fantasy or Sonata Number 3, stuff like that. So I would say that a variety would be a key, a nice arrangement. Maybe it's something like a flower arrangement, art of ikebana, in Japanese. It's how to order these pieces and make them work with each other. What are my favorite Chopin pianists? Well, there have been so many great, fantastic pianists in the past. It's very unfair to single out one or two of them. However, I also remember certain performances by people who are not so famous as Chopin performers strictly. For example, there is a performance of Chopin Concerto No. 1 by Émile Gilels, whom we normally don't associate with the world of Chopin that much. Rather, it would be a Beethoven. But, for example, that single performance is one of the most beautiful I ever heard. If we have to name a figure, I would vote for Alfred Cortot, who, in my opinion, really conquered the kingdom of Chopin. He essentially understood composer and was capable of bringing out the poetic content of his music. How do I deal with the issue of nerves when performing? I don't actually suffer from nerves when playing at all. I think this question is very closely connected with two factors. One is the level of preparation, and other one is occupation with a subject. If one is focused very much on his own success, and if he's thinking those external terms, then the stage fright might appear, and it happens regularly. But I think if one is immersed in the sound world of music, there's no time for stage fright. Simply, it's too much to do. And I think a big problem is ego, which essentially has to disappear in those moments because ego interferes with the music making. The best thing is that we actually get lost in the music world, and it happened to me many times that after I finished concert I realized I was playing in front of audience. So I think certain amount of concentration of musical aspects and sound creation is the most important thing. There's nothing as beautiful as piano on center stage with audience in the hall and silence. It's almost like a great canvas upon which a painter has to execute a masterpiece. Now, this is a funny one. What piano advice would I give to myself if I could go back in time? I would say skip all stages, all intermediary stage, and just go straight to the goal, because life is too short, and many times people use those intermediary stages and then stay in them. The piano is very addictive. It's best to work out the idea away from piano and then use piano only when one needs to materialize it. That's what I wish I would have been doing since childhood, or at least since I entered the musical education. But of course, education is a great treasure, but also it's a great burden. So I think in the end we do a full circle. We start as kids into fantasy world, and after all education we end up in fantasy world again. It's a full circle. At the end, I would wish all participants very good luck, to be able to do their best and to be able to enjoy the music of Chopin.